Greetings, M squared here. We are going to talk about the 5 ways to prove triangles congruent. So although there are 6 corresponding parts to 2 triangles, 3 angles, and 3 sides, we only need 3 parts of the triangles to actually prove them congruent. So one of the 5 ways is called side, 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 and we use 3 S's to say that. And when we see the SSS, we say side, side, side. That's a side, side, side postulate, and what it says is if 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of another triangle, then those 2 triangles are congruent. There's only one triangle that will have those 3 sides that are congruent to the 3 sides, and they have to be corresponding sides. The next one is side, angle, side, and this says that if 2 sides of a triangle and the included angle, now the included angle means the angle between the 2 sides. It can't be one of those. It has to be the included angle. If 2 sides of one triangle are congruent to 2 sides of another triangle and their included angles are congruent, then the triangles are congruent. So that's our side, angle, side postulate. Next, we have our angle, side, angle theorem. And our angle, side, angle theorem says that if 2 angles of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle and the included sides are also congruent, so again, not one of the other sides, but the one between the 2 angles that are congruent, then the 2 triangles are congruent. Our 4th way is angle, angle, side theorem, which says that if you have 2 angles of 2 triangles congruent, and another side, not the included side. So you would only use this when you don't have the included side, and you would use this one when you do have the included side. So they both have 2 angles, but it's all about which side it is. So be really careful with that. And then finally, hypotenuse leg is our last one, and it can only be used in right triangles because only right triangles have hypotenuses. So make sure you know it's a right triangle, but just because it's a right triangle doesn't mean you would use hypotenuse leg. Because if I had both legs, I could just use side, angle, side. So be careful with that. Those are the 5 ways. Let's practice. So before you do proofs, you're just going to want to know, hey, are they congruent or aren't they? So when I look at this triangle, I see side, angle, side. And when I look at this triangle, I see side, side, angle. That's a problem. If this one is side, angle, side, and this one is side, side, angle, those don't even match up. They have to match up in order to be congruent. Okay, so you see here that this side is congruent to this side, and this side is congruent to this side. But we need another part. Remember, we need 3 parts. Well, what we know is that they share this side. So from our reflexive property of congruence, we can say that side is congruent to itself. Then this triangle has a side, 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 and this triangle has a side, side, side. So side, side, side is how they're congruent, and we use the reflexive property for that. In this triangle, we see that this side is congruent to that side, this side is congruent to that side, but we don't have this side. And there's no way to know that those sides are congruent. But always remember that when 2 lines cross, the angles across from each other form, those are vertical angles. And vertical angle theorem says that vertical angles are congruent. So now that I know through vertical angle theorem that those are congruent, I can get side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So these are congruent through side, angle, side. Okay, over here, I see these angles are congruent, these angles are congruent. I notice vertical angle. So vertical angle theorem says that vertical angles are congruent. But angle, angle, angle isn't one of my 5 ways to prove triangles congruent. Later, you will learn that it is a way to prove them similar, but this is not going to help us prove them congruent. So I'm just going to say not enough information to prove them congruent. Enough info. Alrighty, so here we have, we know that from reflexive property, we can prove that side congruent to itself. So in this triangle, we have side, angle, side, but in this triangle, again, we have side, side, angle. So there's just, nope, not happening. Not enough information. Okay, Reflexive property tells us that that side is congruent to itself. So we've got a side, side, side thing going on because we have all three sides. And then finally, we have a right triangle. So that means we could use hypotenuse leg. But notice the hypotenuse is the longest side. It's always across from the right angle. We don't know anything about the hypotenuse of either triangle. So that's not going to be the way we prove these two. But we do notice vertical angles. And since vertical angles are equal, then I know that I can prove these two triangles congruent by angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. So that's what I'm going to do on that one. And then finally, this one, we again have vertical angles congruent. Vertical angles are congruent. And then you have angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. Now you're going to want to notice what extra information they didn't give you that you need, because that's going to come in handy when you start doing proofs. So good luck proving triangles congruent. M squared, signing out.